Today, protests demanding the unconditional release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, took place primarily in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, and Umuahia, Abia State. Demonstrations were organized under the banner of FreeNnamdiKanuNow, spearheaded by activist Omoyele Sowore, with participation from civil society groups, the National Association of Nigerian Students NANS, and supporters of Kanu. The protest highlighted ongoing grievances over Kanu's detention since his 2021 extradition from Kenya, which protesters and rights groups described as unlawful. Kanu faces treason charges, but multiple courts, including international ones, have ruled against his continued incarceration. Despite court injunction banning rallies near government zones and heavy security presence, demonstrators marched, leading to clashes with police. The main protests in Abuja began early in the morning with crowds gathering near the Transcorp Hilton in the central business district. Protesters, including Kanu's lawyer, Aloy Ejimakor, and his brother, Prince Emmanuel Kanu, carried placards and chanted slogans. Now the big question is, the confusion that ensued led to the arrest of Aloy Ejimakor and Emmanuel Kanu. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar also joined the protest. Is the momentum in favor of Kanu's release, or is a deeper and more detailed political negotiation the way forward? This is the Eastern Eye. I am Alex Ogbodo. Welcome to the Eastern Eye, a program that x-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. Joining me tonight is Agbeze, Ireke, Kalu, Onuma. He's a storyteller, cultural curator, and strategic consultant. And in the studio with me is Barrister Amos Ogbonnaya. He's a constitutional lawyer and the executive director, Center for Nonviolence and Social Justice. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Eastern Eye.
Thank you, Alex. My pleasure.
Yeah, let me start with you, Chief Kalu Onuma, because you are not in the studio. Let's extend that advantage to you. I'm sure you observed how the protests progressed, especially in Abuja, with the tear gas sessions and the grouping and regrouping by the protests or the protesters. Tell us what your thoughts are about the FreeNnamdiKanuNow protest.
Well, thank you, Alex, for having me once again, and thank you, everybody and viewers who have joined us. Well, Nigeria loves drama, and we love it in all shades and sizes. We love operas. We love watching all sorts of things. The question really for me is not about the protest. It is about what has Nigeria achieved all these years they've been holding the young man. What is the statement they are trying to communicate both to him and to the citizens and to Igbo? What is it that Nigeria really is trying to communicate? You conducted a rendition, you brought him home on all sorts of trumped-up charges. We've gone to court, and the court said he has nothing to answer. And the federal government, as against court order, continues to hold him. And the question that really begs for an answer, it's really not about this protest. We will delve into all that. Is what is it that Nigeria wants to achieve? It is only when Nigeria states clearly what it is trying to achieve that it becomes a lot more easier for us to appreciate where they are coming from. Nnamdi Kanu has done 0.1% of the criminality that is going on in the north and across the whole nation. And they are holding him. The question is why? That should be our challenge tonight. If we have time, we will find the answer.
Yeah, if we have time, we'll find the answer. Barrister Amos Ogbonnaya, what is it that Nigeria wants from Mazi Nnamdi Kanu? Are you aware of what it is, or what are those things they want from him?
I would say that Nigeria is just confused. It's a confused nation, being led by confused people. there's nothing Nigeria wants in Nnamdi Kanu other than to continue to use him as a point of vendetta to escalate their morbid hatred for the Igbo nation. Nothing, because Nigeria has this unwritten code of marginalizing the Igbo, victimizing the Igbo, and making the Igbo feel less than part of the federation. And so they find in Nnamdi Kanu a perfect target for such sentiments. There's nothing they want. Because it is clear that they have offended both international and national laws in the way and manner they kidnapped Nnamdi Kanu in Kenya. Kenyan courts have come out to condemn the extraordinary rendition. The United Nations group that came to Nigeria to review Nnamdi Kanu's case have ordered Nigeria to release Nnamdi Kanu because he cannot be tried in Nigeria. No Nigerian court can validly try Nnamdi Kanu because his abduction from Kenya is in breach of Nigerian own internal laws, is in breach of Kenya's internal laws, is in breach of international law. Now, Section 15 of Nigeria's Extradition Act makes it very clear that if you are after somebody alleged to have committed an offense, and that person is a fugitive, in other words, the person is in another country, you have to make a request of that country for extradition. That is what we call Extradition Act. The Extradition Act, Section 15 says, this request has to be in writing. And then you state the offenses that individual has committed for which you want him extradited. That is the law. And the law says, once extradited, the person cannot be charged for any other law or offense other than the one stated in the extradition request. In other words, you cannot amend the charge against him before extradition, or add to it, or subtract to it, without the consent of the state from which he is extradited. Every country of the world have extradition act like this. Even in Kenya, Kenya has such extradition act. Section 6, Section 3 of Kenya's Extradition Act clearly has the same provision like that of Nigeria, Section 15. That you cannot change the charges or offenses for which you requested its extradition. You can't change it. Now, there was 4 charges against Nnamdi Kanu when he was declared wanted in Nigeria. 4, which includes treason and membership of a proscribed organization. You did not request Kenyan authority to extradite this young man when you realized he was in Kenya, lawfully in Kenya. You did not. You violated Kenya's internal sovereignty by going to Kenya surreptitiously to kidnap me in a manner of like a conventional kidnappers, without the approval of Kenyan authority, without a review of Kenyan court as required by extradition. And now, having abducted him and brought him illegally to Nigeria, you still changed that charge, those charges, 4 charges that you had against him before extradition. You now changed it to 14. Without seeking consent of the Kenyan authority. And the Kenya has always said they are against the extradition. The Kenyan president has said he was not aware of the extradition, he was not aware of the extraordinary rendition. The Kenyan court has condemned it as illegal. So Nigeria is trapped in a legal quagmire. Because whatever the court does here will amount to a nullity, because the court cannot convict Nnamdi Kanu if his manner of rendition was not in line with domestic laws, was not in line with international laws. The Court of Appeal saw this problem and they declared that Nnamdi Kanu has committed no offense and that his extraordinary rendition was against domestic law, was against international law, and that he should be released immediately. The refusal to release him will give way to anarchy. That was what the Court of Appeals did. The federal government of Nigeria paid deaf ears to the orders of the Court of Appeal and had the temerity to even come before the court to ask for stay of execution of that judgment. And then they went on appeal to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court justices displayed lack of understanding of international law concerning extradition. They displayed unspeakable ignorance of our own Domestic Extradition Act and upturned the wonderful decision of the Court of Appeal, ordering that no matter the manner of the extradition, that he should undergo trial. Now he's undergoing trial now. On what basis is he undergoing trial? Having changed the charge for which he was sought from Kenya to 14, from 4 charges to 14, does the Kenyan authority give the authority or consent for that kind of extradition or for that kind of trial without the consent of the Kenyan authority? Everything we do here is a nullity. So if Nigeria really wants to prosecute Nnamdi Kanu, they should quietly take him back to Kenya, where they abducted him from, and then begin the process properly before any court in Nigeria can have the virus and jurisdiction to try Nnamdi Kanu. Otherwise, they are running around the circus. And what Court of Appeal warned Nigeria about is what is playing out now. The Court of Appeal warned Nigeria that non-refusal to release Nnamdi Kanu will give way to anarchy and chaos. We have seen what has happened today. Thank God no life was lost. And thank God for the protesters. And I must doff my cap for people like Sowore. And I must appreciate him really. He has demonstrated courage, and commitment to the rule of law and to justice and fairness. And he has gone beyond tribe and religion to make a statement that has resonated across the world that Nigeria is committing an illegality against itself and executive lawlessness against its own citizens. That message has been carried all over the world, and the world now see what a charade we have as a government in Nigeria. The world has seen how hopeless and useless our own governments are. A government that does not respect its own constitution. A government that does not respect its own internal laws. Section 39 of the Constitution guarantees for everybody the right to freedom of speech and the freedom of expression and the press. Section 40 guarantees for every citizen the right to peaceful assembly, the right to an association. And each time people want to come to express these rights, the Nigerian states deploy the police and other security agencies after peaceful protesters. Peaceful protesters that should be guided and protected by the Nigerian state are now surrounded and maligned by Nigerian security forces, put in dangerous way, using kinetic energy against unarmed protesters who merely seek to be heard, who merely call attention of Nigerian state to the infraction and illegality going on in our judicial process. And Nigeria, rather than learn from these protests, now decide to hit back at protesters and obstruct their ways. It is this kind of obstruction that leads to anarchy and chaos. And it is ironic that it is people who are leaders of protests, people who led protests against occupied Nigeria, against the United government in the so-called occupied Nigeria. These are the same people that do not want anybody to raise an opposing voice against the administration. That is hypocrisy in its highest order. And Nigeria, no, even the Nigerian state does not know what they want in Nnamdi Kanu. Even the Nigerian president does not know what it wants in Nnamdi Kanu. They just want to hold on to him to further expose their foolishness to the world.
All right, let me get Chief Kalu Onuma back into the conversation. Chief Onuma, do you think that it's true that Nigeria maybe don't know exactly what they want from Mazi Nnamdi Kanu? Or do you think that keeping him is actually that thing they want from Mazi Nnamdi Kanu?
Well, thank you very much. My first intervention, I did say that we love drama. And there's nothing that hooks Nigerians together as drama. Pop culture has become so embedded in our system that everything becomes drama. Now, Nnamdi Kanu is not Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu is us. Nnamdi Kanu is me. Nnamdi Kanu is all of us. Nnamdi Kanu is every single person there that has no voice, that has been trying to shout, but nobody allows him to shout. Nnamdi Kanu has now become a picture that no Nigerian in the top echelon wants to see. Nnamdi Kanu is that conscience that all our politicians have consciously lost. Nnamdi Kanu is no angel. Never would he be. Never claimed to be one, and never would he be one. However, the question about what Nigeria wants to continue their serial humiliation of Ndigbo. And it is very clear that we are not discussing law or constitution or right, but we are discussing what is continually holding this country down. What is it that Nnamdi Kanu did that the terrorists that have placed this country in such a situation have not done? This inkling of Islamic terrorism started while Obasanjo was still in power. It continued under Yaradua. It escalated under Jonathan. It became embedded in our system under Buhari. And this very present government is continuing this rascality. Every single person that have lost their right becomes a Nnamdi Kanu. So what is it that I'm trying to say? I'm trying to say the protest is good, but I'm not seeing that protest. What I'm seeing is, again, something we will talk for the next 1 week and it dies away. Where are the Igbo voices? I have heard about Sowore, I have heard about Atiku. I didn't hear any other name. I've heard about Nnamdi's brother, and I've heard about Ejimakor. Now, where are the so-called Igbo leaders? Where are they? That is the question that begs for an answer. And it is something that's bothering me, because Nnamdi Kanu should have become the point of contact where a serious conversation will be had about Igbo nationalism and Igbo emancipation. But it is not happening. It is not happening. And until that conversation begins to happen, we will continue to see a repetition of what we are doing today. Today is Nnamdi Kanu. Tomorrow, who next? That is what we are facing. And we see a situation where the government cannot even put together a very serious indictment on a young man that simply says, killing our people. Stop marginalizing us. Open up the space. If Nigeria is a democracy, let it be a democracy that every no man looks at no face. If Nigeria is one, then why must I still be asked from which state are you before I am given a job? If Nigeria is one country, why must it continue to indict one section of that country as against the other section? I watched on television a couple of weeks ago a meeting in the north, I can't remember the exact state, where the terrorists, they came with all sorts of machine guns, all sorts of ammunition, and met to have a meeting and a conversation, which they called in quotes, a peace deal. They have continually used my taxpayers' money to rehabilitate these people, to bring them back into the fold. Most of them are soldiers now. Most of them are policemen now. Trained and sent where? Sent to the southeast to police us. What are we really talking about? If Nigeria continues in this trajectory, it will not just be one Nnamdi Kanu they are dealing with. They will be dealing with so many of them. Our young men pass with flying colors from the universities, they won't get jobs. They won't be assimilated into the system. And you keep telling us that we are one country. It is not one country. At some point, I will talk about this thing, and I really don't blame the federal government. I only blame us who call ourselves Igbo leaders. What are we doing? What is the plan that we have on the table to really engage the government to extract from them, not Nnamdi's freedom, but a clarification of why you have continuously held him, even against his failing health? A few years ago, our sister Bianco was brought into the system and given an appointment. On one of the news reports that I read, where she was trying to give a clarification of why she took that job, he said, in no short time, I quote, Nnamdi Kanu will be released. I sit here today and I look, Nnamdi Kanu is not released. How many trips has she made abroad on behalf of Nigeria? How many engagements have she gone on behalf of Nigeria? Yet Nnamdi Kanu has not been released. Is it not enough for you to pause? Because your integrity was placed on the table when you made that promise and say, thus far no more. I walk no more until you release my brother. Or until you explain to us beyond every reasonable doubt why Nnamdi Kanu must still be held. And the charade continues. Last week, the government announced, for no reason at all, that they are releasing a whole lot of people from prison. Abba Macaulay, may his soul rest in peace. When did he die? What did he need the pardon for? He was pardoned. And you look at the list, it becomes a laughing stock for a country that calls itself a civilized country. That you release drug addicts, you release kidnappers, you release criminals, you release people who broke the law and has been proven beyond every reasonable doubt that they broke the law. And a man you cannot pin on something, you continue to hold him. Is it now a crime for a man to speak up? Is it now a crime for a man to say, we owe this thing together, please give me my share? I think we are sending the wrong signal to the generation that know nothing about why Nnamdi is struggling. They know nothing about the reasons behind IPOB. They know nothing about the story of Biafra, because Nigeria has proscribed the teaching of history in our schools. There is a whole lot going on. But my pain is really not about the protests going on or those who may have been wounded. Maybe tomorrow we will get more news of those they shot, because Nigeria has no conscience and no soul anymore. They looked at young men who were simply saying, stop the brutality. They increased the brutality. When the young men gathered at Lagos, they were shot with live bullets. So what we are dealing with is a situation and a country where there is anarchy. And like Achebe quoted W.B. Yeats, turning and turning in the winding grave. The falcon cannot hear the falconer, because mere anarchy has just been loosed upon the country. And that is a sorry state. I say, like those who worked today, releasing Nnamdi Kanu with no further messing around. Because the truth has to be said. If there's anything you want from Igbo, call us to the table, let's sit and talk it over. Igbo and the Southeast used to be the most peaceful country when Jonathan was living. Buhari came in, opened up the windows, opened up the doors, opened our borders, and imported the terrorists that have taken over our bushes. As a young man growing up in Enugu, we will go to school and see Fulani men peacefully walking around. These were not terrorists. They were Nigerians. They were doing their business. Some of them were we knew them as people who were cow headers, but they were not unleashing anything on us. They were peaceful. They were doing whatever they wanted to do. I recall history tells us that there was a time when a Hausa man ran for an election in Enugu and won. Who voted for him? The Igbos voted. That was a country that we have completely lost. What is Nnamdi's crime? That they will continue to hold him. Like I said when I started, Nigeria has to come clean and tell us exactly what they want to achieve. And the truth be said, they don't even know what they want to achieve. Ogbodo, thank you.
A break, by the way. We'll take a break when we return. I'll find out from Barrister Ogbonnaya what exactly should be the way forward. Because Chief Onuma is asking, where are the Igbo voices? That's the question I will pose to Barrister Ogbonnaya. Where are the Igbo voices when we return on the Eastern Eye tonight? Stay with us. To the Eastern Eye here on Afia TV, a program that x-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. My name is Alex Ogbodo, here in Enugu, Southeast Nigeria. Barrister Amos Ogbonnaya, the big question, of course, that we asked before we took the break is, at the end of the day, where are the Igbo voices? We've heard Sowore, we've heard Atiku, we've heard other people, but where are the Igbo voices? Where are the Southeast governors? Where are the big players, the politically exposed Igbos that are supposed to be in the forefront of this? Or is there another strategy they're employing that we're not aware of?
The Igbo voices that you refer to, they've all buried their heads in the sand like ostrich. Those who should speak for Igbo, for the Igbo, they have food in their mouths. They are at the dining table. They are eating porridge. In fact, they have sold the Igbo cause in exchange for a pot of porridge. Because they want to be relevant in Nigerian politics. And the Nigerian politics or the elite class in Nigeria have made it clear to them that if you want to be relevant in Nigerian politics, you must denounce the Igbo cause and join your oppressors. That is what they have just done. By the way, where are the Igbo voices? Is it the voice of Omai? Dave Omai is a serial betrayer of the Igbo cause. Remember, it was in his tenure as Ebonyi State governor. He led other southeastern governors to proscribe IPOB, an organization that was just protesting peacefully with flags and songs to impress their grandmaster, General Buhari. He came to Enugu here, led other southeastern governors, and proscribed IPOB. And then gained the acceptance of Buhari. And from there, he was railroaded to the national politics. That is what he ever wanted. As he is in the national politics as a minister for works, anything concerning the Igbo that will not advance his political interest, he quickly condemns. Anything against the Igbo, he will stand against it, as long as it hinders his political growth at the national. Is that the person that will speak for the Igbo? No. Now, the Eastern governors are looking towards the national, the APC-led government, for sustainability, political sustainability. Because they would feel that for them to speak up on the Igbo will cost them their second term. Those who are in second term will feel that to speak up on the Igbo will cause them ascendancy to Senate, or will cause them ascendancy to other political positions in the national level. So for this, they have sacrificed the Igbo cause for a pot of porridge. So the Igbos don't have anybody to speak for them. It is left for them to stand up and speak for themselves. It is left for the Igbo youth to speak up for themselves. And Sowore has demonstrated the fact that help can come from anywhere. And what he has done today, Igbo political class should indeed cover their heads in shame, because a stranger has come to help them repair their leaking roof. That is what we have seen today. So the Igbo do not have anybody to speak for them. The political class have sold out. All they need, all they ever want, is their own interest, the interest of their families, and their political growth in the Nigerian contraption. Even as it is that Nigeria is not working as a state, even as it is that Nigerian state is a failed state, even as it is that Nigerian state has no direction, it has failed in all cardinal compass of a state. It has failed in the welfare and security of the people. Our Igbo political class have continued to remain subservient, because that is the only way they think they can gain relevance. So the Igbo is left in the lurch, and it is left for them, the common man, the youth, the women, to speak up for their son, Nnamdi Kanu. Because, like I said, it's just a scapegoat for the victimization and marginalization that has become a directive principle of Nigerian polity. The people may see Nnamdi Kanu as the one that is being in detention, but it is indeed the Igbo race that is in detention, because it is further escalation of the unwritten code of Igbo marginalization and Igbo victimization. Tinubu said he will start where Buhari stopped. Despite every opportunity for a political settlement of this case by Buhari, Buhari paid deaf ears to the decision of the Court of Appeal for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, because there's no basis to try him. To try him means for Nigerian state to acknowledge and in fact supervise over the liquidation of its own internal laws and international law to which they are all signatory. And so, Buhari paid deaf ears. Now, Tinubu has the opportunity to latch onto what the Court of Appeal has already warned Nigerian state about, that non-release of Nnamdi Kanu will lead to chaos, and very soon, it will lead to breakdown of law and order. And then they will, turn their guns against innocent Nigerian people, as they've always done. And then to them, nothing will happen. So, it's unfortunate that our political class are at the dining table with the oppressor, and so they cannot speak for us.
All right. Chief Kalu and Onuma, there's also a twist in today's protest, because a group known as Mega National Movement for Good Governance they say they support the continuous trial of Nnamdi Kanu to logical conclusion while in detention. They say no to blackmail, say no to release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Hashtag say no to release. I'm sure you've seen that too. There's always something, because in the beginning you said that here in Nigeria that we like drama. Is that the drama you are referring to?
Well, thank you very much. It's not explicitly the drama I was referring to. Yes, I saw that, and it's quite, it's not unfortunate, it is very funny, extremely very funny. And I like the twist. It goes to the heart of what I have tried to say and what I continue to say. It is not the man who is playing the flute. It is who dances to the flute that is catching our eyes. But who ordered the playing of the flute? The federal government, as it were, have seen or did see that they couldn't and they can't stop this protest today. So what do? They cook up a counter one. When under Buhari, they flew terrorists from Zamfara State, they flew terrorists from Maiduguri, they flew them from Kano and brought them to Abuja and practically stopped short of rolling out a red carpet to receive them, all in the name of they have repented. Look, this is just a joke, a very big joke. But I'd like to say a few things concerning what my brother addressed. The absence of critical voices in Igbo land. Nature and politics are both broken, and we all know that. The established class, the political class, the traditional establishment of Igbo land has faltered. I don't want to use the word failed. They faltered. And in their faltering, I am consciously very happy that an organic movement has taken a life of its own. It has started. And it is growing up not out of discontent, but out of a realization that if you don't speak for yourself, nobody will speak for you.
So, I mean, clearly what this means is that...
You won't believe what is
Go ahead, please.
going to happen. What I am saying, if you look back to history, when our colonial master will come and take over large swathes of forest, decide what they pay through one DC, and do what they want to do, the men were complicit, like the men are complicit today. He took the Aba women riot to bring to the fore and to bring back to the consciousness of our people what it really means. It is going to take the voices of our women and our youth today, not through violence, but through a conscious, well-intentional, motivated movement to reclaim their voice. We need political self-determination. What we are discussing is not secession. Nigeria is too small for Igbo entrepreneurship. So we are not planning today, not planning tomorrow, and not planning tomorrow to be put of Nigeria. So nobody should begin to hang on our neck the question of secession. We are going nowhere. We built this country. I tell you, Nigeria is too small for us. It is too small a market. Africa is too small a market for Igbo. So why should we consciously decide to cut ourselves away? It isn't going to happen. Let it be very, very clear. It isn't going to happen. What is really going to happen is that at one point, Nigeria will lose track of what they are doing. Self-determination is not secession. Self-determination is going back to pre-independence situation of Nigeria, where every region grows and moves their own pace. You want to develop your palm canal, go on. You want to develop your granite, go on. You want to do this, go on. And until we make the center unattractive anymore, we will not stop this rascality. So, it is a demand for Nigeria, as long as I'm concerned, that we should stop operating this prebendalism that is killing us. Nnamdi Kanu has gone beyond being Nnamdi Kanu. He has become a prototype of what it means to demand for fairness, equity, and justice.
All right, thank you so much.
And to keep Nigeria holding his hostage.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Kalu. We are almost out of time. So let me see if we can wrap up with Barrister Ogbonnaya. So what then is out there next for Kanu? I hear it looks like he has a lot of appearances in court from what we have seen How do you think this will end? I mean, yes, it's in court, it could be prejudicial, whatever it is, whichever way is put down. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's trial has become a national issue because the federal government took him to court. So, is it possible there could be a political solution? And who would be at the forefront of making that political solution a reality?
The political solution is on the table of President Tinubu, because nothing can be done outside him. He is the one that directs the police. He is the one that directs Attorney General. And there can be no political solution without Attorney General of the Federation. So it's squarely at his table. It's for him to do whatever he wants to do with it. If he wants to keep Nnamdi Kanu there, let him continue to keep him there. But you should remember the Igbo adage that onye jimna ni jongwe. You know, if you are holding somebody down on the ground, you are holding yourself. Because anytime you are tired, you stand up, the person will stand up. So let him continue to keep Nnamdi Kanu there to make him good. You know? But as long as Nnamdi Kanu is down in the prison, it is in Nigeria that is in prison. As long as Tinubu continues in the old model of marginalizing Igbo and not allowing Igbo their pride of place in Nigerian polity, Nigeria can never succeed. Nigeria will continue to wobble from one useless government to another. Nigeria will continue to wobble unless the Igbo race and tribe is given their rightful place in Nigerian Federation. This federation cannot work. So let him continue to keep him there. But if he dies in that detention, that is when he will know that Nnamdi Kanu represents Igbo, and the Igbo is Nnamdi Kanu. He should just continue to pray that he does not die there. They have been warning about his failing health. The United Nations group have come here to review the condition of Nnamdi Kanu over the unjust detention, and they ordered the federal government to release him. The Court of Appeal has also given a leeway to the federal government by which they could have used this as a political solution by obeying the Court of Appeal decision. Federal High Court also in Aba or Umuahia has also given judgment that is being held unjustly and that he should be released. These are opportunities that the federal government has to hearken to the voice of the justices of our courts and allow him to go. But they now decided under Buhari to go on appeal to Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court messed up the entire scenario. Now, if Nnamdi Kanu remains in prison, what will happen? I think on 23rd of this month, he's supposed to commence the defense.
That's correct.
Yes. So his defense will start. So notwithstanding the arrest of one of his lawyers, his defense will start on 23rd. And when his defense closes, the Federal High Court will give his judgment. If the Federal High Court gives judgment that he is guilty as charged, then they will go on appeal to Court of Appeal. And you can be sure that the Court of Appeal will go back to their earlier judgment that his trial is a nullity and that he should be released. If the federal government is wise at that point, they will release him. If they are unwise, they want to be as daft as Buhari's government was, then they could still go ahead to Supreme Court, who would, of course, confirm the sentence. Because the Supreme Court of Nigeria, as we have it today, is not what it should be. They are all political justices who do not see the justice and merit of cases like this. There is just a political case, a political witch hunt, and it has no merit. As if a nation has a law, a nation is supposed to obey its own law. If you don't obey your own law, then you must obey a law of another sovereign state like Kenya. You cannot go to Kenya and abduct somebody by way of kidnap, and you call it extradition. Kenya has its own laws. Section 6, Section 3 of Kenyan extradition law says you cannot do that. Bring your request for extradition in writing and state exactly the offenses the person you want extradited has done. Then they have the right to decide whether or not to send the person to your country for trial. When Sunday Igboho ran to Benin Republic, Nigeria wanted to do the same thing, but Benin Republic stood its ground. They are a sovereign nation. You cannot come down to our country and pick anybody you call fugitive. And he was tried in Benin Republic, and the due process of law was followed, and he was released. You know? So Nigeria should learn to obey his own laws. When the National Assembly makes a law, like the Extradition Act, it is meant to be obeyed, not to be not to be disobeyed the way that the federal government is doing. Now, if federal government makes a mistake, because all these things depends on who was the Attorney General at the time. Malami, that was the Attorney General under Buhari, may not be knowledgeable on these issues of Extradition Act. But immediately this infraction was drawn to his attention. He should have allowed common sense to prevail by beating a retreat. But rather, he continued to wallow in his ignorance and insisted on the perfidy that he has dragged Nigerian nation into. Because if he had advised Buhari right, then Buhari could have retraced his step over the inglorious abduction of Nnamdi Kanu. So let them continue to keep him, but Nigeria will continue to experience this kind of unrest, the intermittent protests and unrest, and the day they begin to open fire on protesters, that is when they will see the venom and of the viper that will be unleashed in the Nigerian nation. So it is better for Nigeria to release him and settle the old score between Nigeria and the federal government. The federal government fought a war with the entire world against the Igbo race. They survived it for 3 years. You promised there was no vanquish, no victor, and no vanquished. And over the years, over 58 years now, or 55, you have refused to obey your own declaration of rehabilitation and reconstruction of the Igbo nation. But the Igbo have survived, and they will always survive. So if you continue to marginalize the Igbo will continue to survive. Nigeria will be worse off for it, because there can be no Nigeria without the Igbo nation.
All right.
Who are the life wire, the economic life wire of this country. And the earlier the Nigerian Federation begins to integrate the Igbo race as part and parcel of Nigeria, one of the tripod on which Nigeria stands, the better for the country.
That'll be a good place to leave it. I have to thank you so much, Barrister Amos Ogbonnaya, constitutional lawyer and executive director, Center for Nonviolence and Social Justice. Thank you for your insights on the Eastern Eye tonight.
Thank you very
and
much.
Chief Kalu Onuma, thank you so much for reaching us from Agbeze State today. Thank you. Thank you for your perspectives on the program tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And that's the Eastern Eye for tonight. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. My name is Alex Ogbodo. Good night.